Hello, welcome to Breaking In. Um, my name's Kurt Hartung. I'm a programmer. I work at Tripwire. Been in the games industry many years. With me is Miss
Scarlett Dangerfield.
Scarlett Dangerfield, who I've worked with before.
Mm-hmm.
Most awesome name I've ever heard, Scarlett Dangerfield. Don't be self-conscious. Um, so I guess we should probably start off by talking a little bit about ourselves and how we came to be doing what we're doing. Say a few things first. I don't want to hog the mic. I will do that. I will talk. You got to throw shoes or something to stop me.
Hi, I'm Scarlett Dangerfield. I am the talent director over at Hi-Rez Studios. I mostly focus on our human resources and our recruiting at the studio. Prior to that, I was working at Xavient for about a year, and then CCP was along with Kurt for about 4 years. Before that, I used to live in Washington, D.C. I was there for a couple of years doing HR for a lot of large tech companies and science companies. I moved down here because my husband works down at CNN Cartoon Network. And I started looking for a job once I got to Georgia, and I lucked into my job in the games industry. I saw a posting saying, hey, do you want to do HR and wear jeans and flip-flops every day? And I said, yes, that is what I want to do. So I applied. I happened to get the job, and I've never left the games industry since. So.
Yeah, I get asked a lot. What's it like being a programmer, a game programmer? It sounds like this like a really glamorous job where everything's awesome, and I want to tell them, it's just like any other job. It's you got in, you got to do the work. It's in front of you. It's kind of sterile, and it totally isn't. It's awesome. You definitely want to be doing this. It really is great. Most of the studios are very well appointed. Scarlett made sure that CCP was awesome. Definitely true. I could just say a little bit more about me. I started off in very early in, I think 2003 or 2004 is when I got my first big games job. I worked as the network programmer for Everquest, and I did that for a couple of years. I see a lot of nods. Thank you. Someone's heard of it. Spent a couple of years there, and then I moved from there to to Hi-Rez. No, to Acclaim. I spent several years doing Acclaim's back-end work. And then after that, it was Hi-Rez, and then CCP, where I worked on Eve. You might have heard that one too. And then I went to Vegas for a kind of an independent game thing, and then came back here and working on Tripwire and Killing Floor and virtual reality ever since. In fact, I'm going to be doing some virtual reality talk tomorrow, so may see some of you there. But the reason you're here is to find out how to get started and how we broke in and how to do it yourself, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, you want to say something? You want to start? Normally there'd be a moderator here that would help us and guide us. It wouldn't be so awkward. But that's kind of the purpose, but we are.
Sure. I think I already kind of went over how I got into this games.
Well, I can say that I've talked to a lot of my coworkers. This comes up a lot. You are not the first to wonder this. You're not the first time I've been asked is how I want to be there, but I'm here. And you know what? I've thought that many times myself when I've been to conventions where there's like authors or producers or actors, and I thought, man, I want to do that. And you want to ask them, how did you get to do that? So I can do the same thing and be where you are. And I wish I could tell you the answer now. It's like, okay, there's the question, and here's the answer. Obviously, it's different for everyone, but I have talked with some other people over the years who I've worked with, and there's very little commonality, except for one thing I can say is practicality. I've been thinking about this all day, and the best way to sum it up, and that's practicality. Playing games and writing stuff and as almost like a hobbyist is a lot of fun, but as soon as you start doing it professionally, you're expected to be able to do it really well and really right all the time, end to end. You can't just say, I see how a platformer game might be written. I kind of see how objects are put together, and I can use this game engine, and I see how Unity kind of works. You have to do it. Actually go through it, because there's a bunch of things you don't realize you need to know. And you're never going to find those out until you actually do it, soup to nuts. It doesn't have to be a really great game. It just has to be a game. It's something as simple as starting up. What's the UI look like when you enter the game? How do you start a new game? What does reset look like? What do levels look like? What does the game over look like? That's off the top of my head, but there are things that you don't really realize as a hobbyist just doing little projects or doing classroom projects that go into a full game. And when we're interviewing someone, and I've interviewed many people for jobs, one of the very first things we look at, again, I think tonight at 7 we're supposed to be doing like a portfolio review. Again, and I'll repeat this ad infinitum. The first things that I look for is, okay, I see what you do. You're everybody. You all do this. Show me what you've done with it. Right? Show me how you've used your skills to produce something. And that's probably the most important thing that I look for is being able to actually use what you say you know. Like, don't list classes on a resume. I don't want to do a preview of tonight, but don't list classes on a resume. That's everybody. You want to tell me what's different about you. Show me that you used it to do something. And then talking more about actually breaking in. Well, most people tell you, "I'll get a job in QA." You know, that's an easy one. That's low skill bar. Everyone can do it. You play games professionally. Yeah, it gets a little dry and boring. You have to do it around the clock and clinically. But it's a foot in. You get to talk to people. You get to know how a game studio works. You get to observe it at the very least, and it looks good on your resume. Hey, I spent time in a game studio. You know, it's like working in the movie industry, which I never have done. But I thought is you work on little gopher jobs just to say I've been on a set. Yeah, just so that you can show familiarity. That's not a bad idea. That's good. I'm not here to tell you not to do that. But what's the most important thing to do is don't get comfortable doing that. If you want to be an artist, do art and keep doing it and keep showing it to people. And if they tell you suck and you're no good, it might be because you suck and you're no good. But that doesn't mean you're going to stay that way. Don't let that get to you. Keep at it. I don't think there's... I think that 95%, and I seriously believe this, and I'm not just saying this, I think 95% of talent is practice. You look at people that are great at stuff, you look at someone who's a great concert pianist, wow, they must be a natural. Yeah, they naturally practice 10 hours a day because they love it. So you have to love it and know it, and that's also what I want to see when I'm interviewing someone, when someone's coming in new, been a programmer doing something else, or been an artist, or been a modeler. Show me that you love this. I want to feel the energy. You want to see, I want to be here. Oh, you're going to pay me too? That's cool, but I want to be here. I want that feeling, even if you just fake it really well. I want to see that, and the way you do that is by really being there. It's a common expression. Fake it till you make it. It's true. Just do it and do it and do it because you love it. And if you don't love it, maybe you're not doing the right thing. I hate to put that out there, but it's so.
To piggyback off that, I'd also say attitude. I think it's something that we look for a lot in the interviews of, if you are an artist, if we give you feedback, are you going to take that well? Do you have the ability, the right kind of personality to be able to take that and actually keep working on it, versus are you going to get really upset, possibly even defensive, and kind of go down that path as well?
Yeah, because I don't mean to turn to the end of the book on this, but almost every day and professionally you're going to be told you suck. And not because you do, but because if you take it that way, if you take it personally, if I took it personally every time a coworker pointed out one of my bugs, I'd be angry 3 times a day. It happens to everyone. And you have to understand that, when I see an artist draw something that I think looks amazing, and the rare times that I actually get to have feedback on, I'll say, well, I don't like the way it looks. Oh, really? Yeah, okay, right, crumple, throw, I'll just do it. Whoa, that was awesome. What are you doing? And it's because they don't have any of themselves really invested in that. And they can just reproduce it, and it rolls off their back. And that's kind of what you want to see. You want to see someone who doesn't take criticism personally. They take it professionally. And that's a difficult transition for a lot of people to make. And some people I've seen don't really make that. You've got to let it go and realize that whether you're right or you're wrong, or it's great or it's awesome, your paycheck has the same number. You're being paid the same. So try to make it awesome. That's how you advance. But don't take it personally when you're told it's wrong, because it might be.
How many people in here are programmers? How many people in here are not? We're looking for you people as well. So we do get a lot of times everyone thinks that everyone that works in the game studio are programmers, like our lovely Kurt here. We look for
You called me a programmer.
We look for a lot of other things as well. So we hire, I normally hire artists of all kinds: character artists, environment artists, effects artists, lighting artists, tech artists, which is kind of like a weird programmery artist type of position.
That's like an artist who knows math.
Yeah, they're smart.
Oh yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah. But we also hire more corporate functions like myself, like HR, finance, legal. These are people that can still love games, that want to be a part of this industry, that have no art skills whatsoever, like myself. But it's
Ever heard the term programmer art?
But yeah, there's way more avenues to get into games as well. And I've seen people even go from these more corporate functions into game development jobs. So right now we have 2 people at Hi-Rez that were lawyers at one time that are now video game producers, because they have that understanding of project management, and they can kind of pick up on the other portions of how to learn the game pipeline to kind of get into those less technical roles. So there is avenues that way as well.
Am I speaking too fast? think I might be speaking a little quick. People getting it? Okay. All right. Yeah, lots of skills, and it also helps to learn other people's jobs just so you can talk to them. I mean, I know some basics of art, not because I think I'm an artist, but because it helps me to talk to an artist when they're trying to explain something to me. And I really appreciate when an artist or a modeler can talk to me and what I'm doing in not as a programmer, but knowing the concepts. If I say, well, I have to apply a transform to this in order to turn it around, they go, oh yeah, you can do the mesh this way. Thanks for getting it. And that helps because now they can go back and do what they need to do with at least partial understanding of what I need to make their stuff work. Because programmers, and this is something for the programmers, I hate to say it, you don't make games or programs, you make tools. Developers and artists make the games. And that's something you have to realize as well, that as a programmer, and there's obviously lots of cross-pollination and lots of crossover, and yeah, you may make games too, but primarily your job is to support the people putting actual assets in the game, which is what programmer art is. Isn't this awesome? It's a box. Yeah, well, it's a dragon, but
it works.
Right now it's a box. You make it a dragon. For me, it's just a box. Notice how the box moves so well, and now it has to walk. So understanding the roles, I think that's another thing to hit on, is understanding the roles in a game studio. I just take for granted that you know them, and that's really kind of silly. Knowing what a programmer is and what a programmer does and is expected of them. It's not like there's one kind of programmer, obviously. Knowing what artists do and what's expected of them, knowing modelers, producers, designers, game designers, QA, HR, as she mentioned, and all of the things and the grease that make a studio work are just as important. And believe me, they are, because as soon as it's removed, it's like, oh man, this really stinks. What, didn't this just happen before? No, then Scarlett left. Oh, okay, now it doesn't just happen anymore. And it's really conspicuous. And that's another thing that engineers in general are plumbers. I'm an engineer technically. And I say plumbers because no one cares about you until the shit backs up. Oh, can I say backs up?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. If you're invisible, you're doing your job. And you think people won't appreciate you, and they actually appreciate that they're not in their face all the time. I try to be low maintenance. Not everybody is. Maybe I just try and I'm bad at it. But you want to learn the jobs of a studio, learn where you might fit in. And maybe it's not where you thought, but it probably is. Learn what that is and what's expected of you and what's not expected of you, what you don't have to be doing, what you don't have to be concentrating on. Because if you get good at those things that recruiters are looking for, I shouldn't say recruiters, I guess company recruiters, not necessarily headhunters, but that they're looking for, then you can express expertise in them when they ask. I can say specifically as a programmer, very in depth because I've been doing it for so long. It doesn't apply to everyone, but they're gonna, in every job interview I've ever had, they're gonna stand me up in a room with a whiteboard and say, we want you to make a program that determines if this point is in that box. Here's your marker, go. And you have to be able to do that, not because they're grilling you or because they're punishing you or a form of hazing. It's because you're going to be doing that every day. And they want to see that you can do it under pressure. And they want to see that you can do it and see what your process is. I'm not saying you can practice that. I don't even know how you would practice that. But don't be surprised when it happens. I don't know how artists do it. I don't think they say, we want a picture of a Minotaur, here's a pencil, go. But maybe they do.
We test artists, normally in our interview process. It's usually before coming on site for an interview, but we'll usually send them either a 2D concept that they need to be making into 3D, or giving them pictures, or giving them different kind of concept pieces to help create different concept art or card art as well in the game.
Yeah. And not again because you're hazing them. Because that's what you're going to be doing. We want to see how well you do it. Mm-hmm. So what I touched back earlier is, so do that. So look up little algorithms. Go. There's all kinds of stuff online. Go look at sample tests. Look at artists' portfolios and the kind of things that artists who get hired, well, what do they have in their portfolio? Well, if that's not in my portfolio, maybe I should figure out how to put it in there, and figure out the process for doing it, because it's not just about looking like you belong, it's about belonging. And that's practice and experience, but mostly practice to get in. You want to open up for questions? People?
You guys ready for questions?
Want some questions? Answers? Or do you want to hear just us talk and ramble on? Because I can do that. I don't know if you've gotten the impression yet, but I can just go on and on.
There we go.
Yeah. Can we wait for you to get a mic though?
Hello.
Just to remind you, by the way, I'm Kurt. This is Scarlett.
Hey, Kurt. Hi, Scarlett. I'm Nick. What are some common mistakes that you see made by people that are applying or maybe have even gotten an interview with your companies?
That's a really good question. What common mistakes do we see? I don't think it's a mistake, but the thing that jumps into my mind is trying too hard. I've seen it's often where people try to make something that's not really impressive sound really impressive, and they're not fooling anybody. I'm not sure what kind of good takeaway that gives you, though. You know, I can't just say, here's the best thing to do. Be awesome.
Be yourself.
But
Be
yeah,
yourself.
I'd much rather you were yourself rather than, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I can see the person you're pretending to be. You're not that person. And that counts against you in the interview. I'd rather you be the real you, and who you think is not as impressive, that impresses me more. That you're comfortable enough to be yourself. I mean, does that sound fair? Okay.
For me, I would say people are trying a shotgun approach to kicking your foot in the door.
Oh, yeah.
So let's say if I look into my my recruitment system and I see, hey, you applied for like QA, character art, level design, and HR, where you're like, I don't know.
See what sticks.
Like, I could see you being good at one of these 4 things. I don't know if I could see you being good at all 4 of these things. So you kind of have to question, like, does this person really understand what these different jobs entail? Or when they come into the interview where they're like, okay, we brought you in, we're interviewing you, let's say, for a community position. You're like, hey, but I also saw these other jobs on your website. Can I talk to someone about those too? Like, I want to know that you're super interested, that you're very passionate in this one job that we have you here for, before we'd ever consider you for something else. Like, I want to feel your excitement for this position first.
Yeah, that makes me remember something else that I think is so obvious I didn't think to mention it. Research the company before you go there, and sit in their interview. If I say to someone who's coming into work for us, oh, have you ever played Killing Floor? Ever heard of it? And they go, oh no, not really. Really? Did you know you were coming here? You know, it's free to download. You know, you can just play. Research the company. You don't have to memorize CEO names or the entire past history or something, but be a little familiar, because one of the ways you show enthusiasm is by saying, hey, I really want to work for you guys, and therefore I looked you up and read more than just a Wikipedia article. You know, I actually downloaded your games. I actually had some. I think what impressed Andrew, my current supervisor, when he was interviewing me, said, because I am a fan of the main game that we make, Killing Floor 2. I actually played it before I ever worked there. I played it at TCP. Remember Dave Deering spread it around the office. And he said, so you play the game? I said, yeah. I said, what suggestions would you have for improving it? Have some of those. Because I talked to Xerox for half an hour. I told him everything about the game that I thought could be better. And he was surprised. He said, why? We normally don't get as in-depth an answer. I said, we probably don't normally have a real fan of the game, which I happen to be. So I'm not saying every interview, download the game and put 12 hours into it. But at least have heard of it. You know what it is. You know, if I say Killing Floor 2, I wouldn't expect everyone here to know what that is. But at least know it's an FPS, you know, something that's. And I've had people who come in who don't know that, not in Tripwire specifically, but in other game studios, that say, what about this game studio do you find interesting? What games? And they'll be like, oh, you guys make games? I think I've heard of Eve. You know, really? Well, I guess we can finish this interview if you want, but I can just tell you no now. I hate having to be that person too. It's like, yeah, you can keep talking because okay, done yet? Okay, great question. Was that a good answer? People happy with that answer? I feel like I should be graded or something so I can do better or worse.
You did great.
Okay.
Hi, Kurt. Hi, Scarlett. I'm John. So I had a question about, like, I know there's a lot of people out there, including myself, that are kind of a jack of a lot of different trades, and they're all associated with parts in that industry, but you're not like really headlining with one strong skill. How could you stand out more if you are that type of person?
Well, sorry, you want to?
Is there like a particular role that you want to get into?
Exactly what I was going to say.
Is there like a more particular role that you want to get into?
Well, I'm an associate producer,
Okay.
but I've done editing, sound design, writing, and all sorts of things dealing with content. And I know a lot of companies need that nowadays. It's all content.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say you don't have, a pure like editing skill of like 20 years under your belt. Kind of how do you showcase yourself if you have all these little skills per se?
Sure.
Whether it's in art or a little bit of programming here and there and that kind of thing.
I would say if your end goal is to still do all of these different roles, I would probably look for a smaller size studio, because in those you'll have kind of the opportunity be able to do more of the different facets, because that's usually what we're looking for when we're in that kind of a studio where you're looking for more jack of all trades. Unfortunately, when the studios get larger and larger, the roles usually become very siloed. So if you are a producer, you're not probably going to be able to still do video or audio. It's going to be the video or audio person that will be handling all of that. So it's kind of also, I would say, going into one of those smaller studios and doing that for a while, you can kind of figure out which ones you do prefer doing, possibly for a full-time job solely, if you ever do want to go to a larger studio. But if you want to kind of continue in that multifaceted role, I would probably stick with a smaller sized one.
Yeah, I would say something similar, which I realize is difficult advice to take, because the smaller studios, they don't hire as much, and they're taking more of a risk with you. I mean, ultimately, when you get a job in the games industry, that you're asking them to do, say, or in any industry, is take a risk on me. Please be convinced that I will be valuable to you, that I will contribute more to this company value than my salary is, considerably more. And that's probably a multiplicative effort. I can do that because I'm in the studio working with the people. You look at that, I can give you an answer. My impression is just the obvious one you already know. Find the thing you think you really want to pursue, and pursue that. Duh. But you say, I don't know what that is. I don't know how the game industry is. You say writing, you say sound editing, producing, a little bit of programming. That's valuable. A little bit of programming, that stands out to me, not because I'm a programmer, because so few people have that and are confident to say that, because that matters. Everything about game you say is content development these days, and that's kind of true. But the generation includes everything. The model, the AI, the sound, the look, the concept art, that's all part of content generation. And any one of those that understands how it's going to be used in its final form is more valuable than someone who doesn't. You can meet a fantastic artist who draws amazing concept art. If they don't know how that's going to be used in the game, then let me come at it from a different angle. If they do know how that's going to be used at the game, that's going to color what they write, or color what they draw, and not to draw things they know could never be modeled. Maybe drawing it to make it look cool, but to understand that it's not integral to the design. That's a small example. And that's the kind of thing, like if I'm a programmer and I draw something with all this, say, a huge flowing robe and a cloth and a collar, I was like, that's not going to happen. And if that is needed for the look of that character, understand it's going to look static and bad, unless it's an ancillary part, or just don't put it in a video. Put your effort on the stuff that can be used. All right, I don't want you to take that as direct advice, but that's the kind of thing that someone with a lot of experience would know. So you want to emphasize that. Find the thing that you think you'd be good at. Learn what that does in the games industry. Writing jobs are very difficult to find, but design and development, not so much. Those are a little bit easier to come by. And the programming back end, you want to emphasize that. Hey, I've done some programming too. Oh, really? Okay, so we don't expect you to program, but you're going to understand how the asset's going to be used, and that's valuable. Okay, next. I saw her first. Sorry, I don't have a camera that can.
Hi, Kirk. Hi, Scarlett.
Hello.
So if you're wanting to transition from one industry, for instance, I work as a marketer in the educational industry, and you wanted to transition into the games industry, how do you make that transition when you have the skill set, but you're not familiar with the industry itself?
Marketing. That comes up a lot. So I don't know about marketing specifically. You can probably talk about that better.
Sure. So our marketing team at Hi-Rez, I would say, everyone has come from different industries. That's definitely something that we actually find as a value add. I would say the harder part is to get your resume noticed when you're applying for these different jobs. And with that, always include a cover letter and include why you're looking to make this change.
Emphasize. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Really, we need a moderator. One thing that almost every games industry I've ever been in, games company I've worked for, and I've worked for some big ones, everyone values gamers. Yeah, you're a marketer. You play games? You enjoy them? You're going to get asked that. You want the answer to that be yes, and an honest yes. Even if it's like play a bunch of Farmville. Yes, fine, but you play games. You understand them. The games industry is almost unique in that most of the people in it really enjoy it and are actually part of it themselves. I think you probably agree with that.
100%.
And to say I'm a marketer, and I'm a good marketer, and I've got all these skills, I've got lots of background and connections, I know what I'm doing, and communication skills. I don't really play games, but that does not. Yeah, it does. Be a gamer too. That's going to put you head and tails above the other. So just the other day I was playing Overwatch and really kicked the Junkrats out. Well, can I say Junkrat? Sorry. Everyone in the room is going to jump up and say, "Oh, really? Oh, okay, yeah, wow, a girl who can play the heck out of Genji. Wow, okay." That's. You want to stand out there? There you go. All right, I just gave you a killer line. So that would be my answer. I didn't mean to stop.
No, I'm completely with you on that. Just having the passion, being able to just display the passion, show it. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't have to approve everything you say.
There's no one else to look at than the moderator. Yes.
Kind of a two-part thing, but first and foremost, A+ on the answers so far. You're asking for a grade?
Yes.
So the first part is, how important do you guys feel it is to make connections within the companies before seeking the sending in the resume applications or whatnot? And then the other part is, I'm seeking to go through the user interface artist, user experience developer, and that's a kind of pretty narrow field. There's not as many people to make connections with on that side. So do you have any recommendations there?
Yes. So having referrals is always a good thing. It's not required. We hire plenty of people at Hi-Rez and CCP that were not referred, that we find online. But having someone that can vouch for your performance, either a professor or someone from school, that's always killer. It's ridiculously helpful. In regards to UI, UX, do it. There is not enough people in that field, and we are always just desperately seeking these people. So it is just a ridiculously smart field to go towards. And there are games industry UI, UX conferences. There's actually one being held this week up in Toronto. So I would say look into that, see if you can possibly go next year. Just start trying to network with people. I know Ubisoft, Bethesda has a big presence at it, so it's definitely worth something to check it into.
I 100% agree with that, and it was actually almost exactly what I would have said. Yes, networking, super important. It probably, when you know some people within a company, one person, and they recommend you, we're generally looking for a reason not to hire you when we bring you in, as opposed to when we get you from a recruiter or something, we're looking for the reasons to hire you. It's almost a complete different opposite. So yes. And UI artists, make some UIs and say, here's some UIs I've done, even if they are for nothing. This is how I would imagine a character generator. This is how I would imagine a questionnaire going. And put that in your portfolio, front of the line. UI artists are too far between. A good UI guy is just amazing, or gal. You had a question.
Hi, Kurt. Hi, Scarlett. I think that this question might be similar to the other ones that were answered, but I was just wondering, if you haven't had an in-house studio position before, what kind of experience do you value the most from candidates who are seeking a position? Like, let's say you're an artist, do you value freelance work or working on another title from an indie project or something like that?
What I would say with that is almost universally, we value quality over where you did it. It wouldn't when we look over a portfolio, it's not important that this was used anywhere. It's important that this is awesome. So I would say prior experience, the fact that you have it is definitely important, but the work that you showed us need to be from it. And so the first part of your question was getting into the industry without direct experience of how a studio works. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Working in a bigger studio. The obvious one, find out. It's not hard. It's not secret. The other one is figure out something inside that studio that you think you want to do. Not that studio specifically, but a studio environment you want to do. And make sure that your projects show that you can do it. That's what we really value. We want to look for someone who can make low poly models and make them look good. That's a difficult skill. It takes practice. It's a muscle. You have to exercise it. And I don't know exactly what you do. You see artists. I'm just using this example. Show that you've done that. It doesn't matter that it didn't used anywhere. Just show that you went home and did it and thought, hey, this would be cool. I taught myself how to do it, and I did a couple of projects. Here they are. They're not used anywhere or anything. I just did them for myself. That's incredibly valuable. That is gold to an interviewer and to a department. That's what we want to see. That shows passion and interest and self-starter motivation. Say I wanted to figure out what this character would look like if they were at a wedding or if they were at a funeral, or what would they look like if they were doing this, or if they were trying to jump off a cliff. Look at expressions, and I just wanted to see how expressions would work. Who cares that it never got published? That it didn't go anywhere. That you just did it for yourself. It's still, we care about the quality, not the location. I think that's my answer.
Yeah, I mean, I would say freelance work, indie work, any kind of mods that you make on your own time. This is the stuff that we kill to see. So.
Next. What time is it, by the way? How much time do we have? 4:05. When are we supposed to be out of here?
4:30.
4:30? Oh, yes. Half an hour ago.
Sir.
Hi, I'm a student at Kennesaw State University, majoring in game design, game development, and I'm a junior, and I've got a little bit of programming experience under my belt, like 6 months of a paid programming job, as in like, and then I've got my projects on my website and everything. But when I was researching the major to see if I wanted to go in for that, there's a lot of like mixed.
I'm sorry, did you say researching major?
When I was researching my major,
My major, got it. I thought it was a studio.
No, sorry, yeah. When I was researching my major online and stuff, there was like a mixed consensus of like a lot of people thought a game design major is too new and not useful, and that like job, like people who you interview with will look at your major and say, oh, I just wanted a computer science major, not a game dev major. Is that true, or is it more about your portfolio and your experience than your major?
Your turn.
For us, I mean, do you want to go into programming? Is that your end goal?
Well, my end goal is to work in the field for like 5-10 years, start a studio, be a game like head.
Designer?
Yeah, but
Like-
what
Like producer?
just the director and like just
It's kind of the same thing.
yeah, I wasn't sure, but yeah, that's my end goal. But like I know like that starting a studio costs money, and saving up for that money costs a job. And I was just wondering, becoming a programmer or any sort of like designer or anything like that, if it's possible to do that with a game major, or is it like people just look at CS?
No, I mean, so most of our game designers do not have a programming background. So I mean, if you want to go towards like a creative director type of a role, going game design and having a game development bachelor's, it's completely logical. We have brought on people in programming that have a game dev degree as well. But yeah, I mean, you are correct. That most likely we normally do look for CS degrees for that.
Yeah, I would say it's neutral. It is new. I've gone both ways. I've hired people and worked with them from Full Sail. Just jumped into my head. Some were fantastic, and some I wouldn't trust to sit the right way on a toilet seat. I just, what are you doing here? How did you get this degree? And because of that, I assume that it's not the school, it's the person. It's what did you get out of it? What did you do? And that goes right back to portfolio. Instead of telling me your qualifications, show me what you've done with them. And that's why that's so important, is because the degree, my answer is that it's not important what you get, the degree that you get. It's more important what you do with it and showing the mods that you can make a mod, make a skin, make an art project, a program, make something. That's what we care about. And we're going to judge you on that quality, not so much on your degree. My degree is in mechanical engineering. So.
To be frank, I mean, I'm pretty sure I've hired programmers that actually didn't have degrees whatsoever as well.
One of the best programmers I ever learned from didn't have a degree in anything. And he taught himself. I mean, it doesn't mean he didn't do work. It just means he didn't do it in a college. He taught himself. Any more questions? Oh, come on. All right.
Yeah.
Back to, I want to say John.
Nick.
Sorry.
Close. If I'm applying for a job at a company, does that company want to see work like, say, for instance, it's Killing Floor, and I do a sound redesign for Killing Floor? Is that a good idea or a bad idea?
I would say it's a very good idea to do that, because it shows that, I mean, it doesn't mean you're going to get the job, of course, but it shows, one, initiative, and two, it shows that you can do something. You know, and it shows just the quality of your work. You know, make sure if you do it that it's good before you show it. You know, but even if you don't, if you say, look, I just took a shot at this and I know it sucks, but I just wanted to see how the samples go into the game and what I could do with it, that's valuable. Even and then we'll say, oh, okay, fine, we understand it's not great, but you had the motivation and the initiative to do it. So I wouldn't say do it to get the job, but do it, and it is definitely a big plus. And you'd have to take the job away from Mark Moransky, and that's not going to happen because he can kick anyone's butt.
I mean, I would say that's also applicable in all fields. So we've hired game designers who came in because they ripped apart our characters, their designs of our characters. We hire artists because when we look at their portfolio, we see pieces in their portfolio that we can use in-game. So if we're looking for an artist for Paladins and you have a very stylized tree in your portfolio, and our environment artists are looking for a new environment artist, like, we're going to be more apt to call that person versus people that have, like, let's say, more photorealism, in their portfolio. So it's always good to kind of have work that you can show us that is applicable to what we're doing.
Now, Tripwire is a little unique in this regard, but not terribly so. We've hired at least 3 people off the top of my head out of the community who made mods, and we said, "Your mod's awesome. Want to come work for us?" Like I said, they're sitting in the office right now. In fact, they're sitting in the office right now. So, probably wondering where I am.
We've done the same with pro players as well. So people that have played Smite for a very long time, they've worked their way up in that scene. We brought them on community game design. So.
Yeah, that not only does that happen, it happens often. Yeah. More questions? Yes. Down front here.
Yeah, how you guys doing? My name's Klein.
Doing fantastic, Mr. Klein. It is amazing. Love to be here.
So I just want to know what a normal day was like at Tripwire.
What a day is like at Tripwire? I don't know. It's not over. It's evidently a day is you go in the morning, do very little, have a company meeting, and then go to a convention. That's pretty much my. Okay, most game studios are these days do agile programming, or I said programming, just agile scheduling in general. Most companies don't do all of agile. They do some piece of it. They'll pick and choose. It turns out agile is a really big, deep thing. Does anyone not know what I'm talking about when I say agile development? Okay, that's fine. Agile is essentially small teams doing small jobs for short periods, right, to make a big job. So instead of having a schedule where you have to do something for the next 3 months, you do something for the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And when you're done with that, you look back and say, what did we do? Great, let's go on with the next thing. It works very well for, and it's usually a small team, 6, 8, 10 people tops, and you meet every morning. So a day in the life is you meet in the morning with the rest of your team for a stand-up meeting. Anyone not know what a stand-up meeting is? It's not a quiz. Okay, stand-up meeting is where you literally stand up. The idea is to be uncomfortable. You don't want to sit there for a while. You want to quickly say what you've done yesterday, what you're going to do today, get out. Go do it. It's not, well, let's have a 5-hour offsite meeting to discuss why we're behind. That doesn't happen. You have a quick stand-up meeting in the morning. This is what I did yesterday. This is what I'm going to do today. By the way, I'm waiting on this piece of art from you. Did you know that? No, yeah, I did, and I'm working on it. Or, really? You find that out on the daily basis. You do status reports daily. And sometimes the status report is, yesterday I couldn't figure out what was wrong. I wasted the entire day. No one judges you for that. Well, we try not to. But if that's your story every day, well, there's a problem. But everyone has those days, so it's okay. But the point is it's daily. Morning, you generally have a stand-up. Then you go and you do some work, and then you go home. I can fill in some more. It depends on what you're doing. You know, a programmer, level design. The interaction at a game studio is very high, but I've worked at them for so long, I don't know if that's not the case in other places. I get the feeling it's not, but people are not at their desks for non-trivial amounts of time. You know, I don't know if you remember me at CCP, I would wander all over the place. Me more than most, so I'm not a great example, but a lot do. It helps to be communicative. If you have a problem, don't think, man, I really need Tom to do this for me. Go talk to Tom. Get up and go talk. And most game studios really encourage that.
It's a very collaborative environment, especially if you have questions, if you have problems that you can't kind of work yourself out. And expect people to come to you, you know, when they need something from you or they need something of your work. There's very little throwing it over the wall going on in game studios. Very little of that. If you need to send something out to the QA department, I'll send it out and then I'll walk to the QA department and say, hey, by the way, this is the story on what I just sent you. Now, not every time, but you sometimes do that. So you have bite-sized jobs, bite-sized pieces of work, which you are expected to take big bites out of daily. And that's not saying we need to build a game, build a huge chunk of it today. We need to build the ability to walk across this bridge. Build pieces of that. And then when you're done after 3, you can walk across the bridge really well. You know, that's a silly example, but not a crazy example. So hopefully that is another question.
Hi. Sometimes when people are breaking into the industry, they take a few years to get there, land that first job. What are some jobs that you recommend people do on the side before getting their big job? Like, what's good on their resume that you see, like, just a little thing?
So did you come here later? Or
Yes.
Have you been here the whole time?
No, she came in a couple minutes
I
later.
came in a little later.
I only asked that because I think I said at the beginning QA is a common vector. Do you remember me saying that?
No, I don't remember that.
No, okay. That's okay because I don't mind repeating myself. Jobs on this. Yeah, you got that impression, did you? I don't know that it really matters. When you say trying to get into the game industry, I really want a game job. but I don't have one now, and I'm going to keep applying. And while I'm applying, I'm going to do something else. I don't really think it matters. What matters is, Scarlett may differ with me on this. I just saw a look. What matters is that in your free time, you keep working on it. Because when we interview someone, we don't want to see, oh, I went to KSU and I got a game degree 3 years ago, and I'm trying to get a job ever since. Okay, what have you been doing? Trying to get a job. I just told you. No, tell me. And I've been working on these side projects, and I've done a mod for these games, and I've been playing here and been part of this community there. That's what I want to hear. The fact that you were a waiter or waitress in that time, completely inconsequential to me. You know, you were trying to pay the bills. That's everybody. You know, I want to see what you've been doing to keep your skills current and to get in. Would be my answer. Scarlett's going to tell you something completely opposite.
Nope, that's actually along the lines. I was going to say anything that's really building your portfolio or your skill set. We have a character artist on our team that I believe once he graduated from the Art Institute, it took him probably about 9 months to a year before he got his first job. And you have to treat that time like that is your job, like when you're trying to apply to get a job. So he would spend purposely every week trying to create a new character for his portfolio so that he could update his portfolio on a weekly basis. Because I can be honest, I still see people's portfolios when they graduate school back in 2014 that haven't updated it since in the 3 years, and yet they're still applying, which is great that they're still trying, but you've seen no growth in that time period. And unfortunately, if they were not able to get a job with that portfolio in 2014, it's going to be even harder for them to try to get a job now. So I would say anything that can really help kind of build that. So either freelance work, indie work, doing mods, or just honestly practicing your craft. And then anything to pay the bills in the free time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over here. Was that tell you a good answer? Hopefully not completely unexpected.
Hi.
Hi.
So I just recently started hobby game making. And right now, the most I could do is get a 2D ball and like collect pizzas and stuff.
You're already ahead of 90% of the people who think they want to be game programmers.
Oh.
Honestly, I am not kidding.
Oh.
I didn't mean in standing up. I meant in the game.
Well, that's a good thing. Well, I guess the question is, I know you're going to say, I know I have to practice more, but how, I have several questions. How do you practice better? If I want to get a job, where do I even look for one?
Okay, narrow it down a little bit. Job. What area of gaming?
I'm not so sure right now.
Okay. You just want to make games, and it's just my initial impression is you want to start working on mods. Go on games that exist and change them, even a little bit. Change the zombies into pink elephants. Yeah, that's harder than it sounds, and you learn a lot doing that. And that's how you break into learning even what you like. You know, do I like making pink elephants, or do I like making them walk around, or do I like giving them different AIs, or do I like making guns, or do I like none of that? And maybe I want to just produce and order people to do that for me. You know, find what you like. So, sorry, you tell me.
No, it's okay. And I would say a lot of the tools out there are also for free. So
I've been working on Unity.
Unreal Engine 3, Unreal Engine 4, a lot of these that you can currently access online. So trying to get in there and just kind of dabble around, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, like Unity and UE4 are probably the biggest ones right now.
Yeah.
You know, there's some others obviously, but those are if you can say, hey, I made this project in Unity, and present that during your interview, huge, enormous. You know, same with UE4.
Okay, but well, so where do I even look for a job? Like,
you have to. There's a couple of good sites that essentially what you want to do is find out what you want to be good at, what your strengths are, and then just type that into Google. I'm a programmer. Where do I go find a game job?
Logical writing. Yeah. I say my strengths.
Game writing?
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's design. I like game design and writing.
Narrative.
Just start anywhere, and you'll get closer to what you're looking for in every query that you make. And I realize that's not a good answer, but I don't have a lot of information to work with.
That's okay. Something I would suggest that you do is figuring out the games that you enjoy playing. So if you're a massive League fan and you want to be in their narrative team, go on LinkedIn, reach out to other people who are currently doing that, and ask them how they got into that role. Mm-hmm. Most people are usually pretty receptive to that. They're more than happy to explain, like, oh, I went to this school, I took this program, I took this course online. and just kind of start giving you like tips and feedback to kind of like mentor you towards that.
Definitely got to narrow down your search.
Well, to be honest, I don't have a lot of history. I'm only 20.
That's it. We all start somewhere.
It's okay. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. You know, knowing what you want to do at 20, yay.
Thank you.
Where?
In the front.
Hello, my name is Sonia. I'm an interactive developer. I'm working at my first game internship now, just to gain some experience. Finally got in out of the waitress job.
Where are you working?
It's at Ninja Multimedia. Klein and I both work together there, so
Awesome.
it's a
Okay.
pretty cool VR studio.
A VR studio, awesome. I'll work on VR games.
Yeah, so it's cool. But my question was, building your portfolio, are you guys looking for a whole fleshed out game, or are you looking for small chunks to show you can do the jack of all trades thing? Like, would it be better to show I made this entire game by myself, or would it be better to say, hey, I made 5 different parts of a game. I made this mechanic for shooting. I made this mechanic for teleportation, or something like that. How much are you looking for that on a portfolio?
Are you going towards more of a game design role?
Programming.
Programming?
Okay, well, both. The pieces are good if they're good pieces. The entire game is good if it's a good game. I realize that's not a good answer. If you did a complete system, like, hey, look, I figured out a way to make physics work better with gravity, so you never fall through the world here. Yeah, that's great. Or I made this entire game. You know, that's good too, because you have to know certain things to do that, and we know what those things are, and we know that you know them now because you've learned them. So both. If you're asking which one you should concentrate on, I would say whichever one interests you more, because both will be the same value. Because it's the quality of what's left, it's the quality of what we see, and your ability to do it on the spot that we're going to care about the most.
Right.
Is that satisfying?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the thing is, I have so many mini projects that I use for the bigger projects. And it's like this Frankenstein thing to where you have all these little
That's
parts.
great. Make a game that doesn't even need to be a game. It can just be an experience and say,
Right.
here's all the pieces that I used to make this experience.
Or just a scene.
Right, because remember, you're talking always, I can't think of a time when you're not. You're going to be talking to professionals who do this, and we get it. When we see something like that and you tell us this system, you do that, you don't have to emphasize. You're not talking to your mom saying, no, really, this was very difficult. I'm sure it was. No, we get it. We know how difficult that was, and it carries a lot of weight. So I would say whatever interests you the most, do that.
Thank you.
Let's see a hand over here. We'll get to everyone. We have plenty of time. And by the way, I don't mind. I got nothing to do until like 8 o'clock. So I'll keep talking if you want to talk. You know, if you have somewhere to be.
So I'm going to bring up something that you guys haven't mentioned. I'm just curious where this falls into things. What about the people behind the scenes that keep the rendering servers running, keep your PCs going, keep the network going, secure your network to make sure somebody from Russia doesn't steal your stuff?
Yeah, Ukraine,
or China.
Romania, yeah. We have a term for those people. They're called platform.
Yes.
And it's an enormously important department. And it's fairly, and I've actually been kind of platforming. Like I said, I was the network programmer on Everquest, so believe me, I've worked with and on platform. It's not really super game specific.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that it's not valuable or difficult. It is both of those things in spades. It is a set of skills that isn't specific for gaming. It's about keeping servers up, keeping them patched, keeping them running, knowing how raids work, knowing how these things.
I'm also wondering too about, you mentioned Unity and Unreal. Well, they break down into having their rendering engines, know how to build render farms. So it's not just, do you know how to set up servers? It's no. Do you know how to set up and optimize for these types
Absolutely.
of machines?
That is an extremely marketable skill. You would have no trouble finding a job if you knew those things.
Yep.
That kind of falls under graphics programmers, but not necessarily what you just described there. But IT in general and platform, hugely valuable. And there's not a huge sucking sound for it, but there's a pretty big hole for talent.
I mean, at least for how we are set up at Hi-Rez, for Paladins, for Smite and Tactics, any programming that is done on the team is like anything that's specific to that game is done by the team. Anything that's specific to the back end that supports all of our games is done by our platform team. So our tools people, our tech art is on there, our graphics programming, like our platform team is very encompassing. Our hosting is on there, our DBAs as well. So yeah, it's a lot of people. They don't all have games background, but if they're passionate about games, that's great.
Right.
That's what we're looking for at that point.
Thank you. We got 5 minutes, so we gotta get to people quick. You've already had a question, so I'll give someone else a chance. Sure.
Hey, how's it going? I was just curious, what was the biggest challenges you guys faced personally getting into the gaming industry?
Wow. Sounds like I'm being interviewed. Wow. The biggest challenge is, I realize this may sound self-serving, but most of the people in the games industries are superstars. Everyone's really good at what they do because they're passionate. You can't help but be good at something you're passionate at. So for me, the biggest challenge was impressing people who I think are on these huge pedestals. And when it was like, I had some friends in the industry. I didn't know they were in the industry. I just made some friends while I was gaming, and then I kind of learned and got in networking. That's how I got the job originally, years and years ago. When I found out what they did, I was like, wow, you guys do that? That's amazing. I've always wanted to do that, but how? And the biggest challenge for me was getting over the fact that they're no smarter than you, they're no better than you, they're no different than you. They just worked at it and got there. And realizing that and internalizing that was for me the biggest challenge.
I will forever believe that I kind of lucked into this industry, but once I got into the industry, I think the biggest challenge for me was just the culture shock. So from being in a much more corporate, much more, it was government contracting that I was doing beforehand, going from that world to a world where people were like fire jousting in our parking lot and refusing to wear shoes and having to do HR with that was...
An actual quote when I was interviewing at CCP was, "It's not like people are going to be running naked down the hall, but it's happened."
And I was gonna do HR there. Like I was like, okay, this will be fun. But just trying to just transition into that kind of a world and actually still be successful, because there were previous HR people I know that have worked in the games industry that through that transition, they just kind of fall into the people running naked through the hallways, and you're like, oh, you can't do that in this world. So just trying to know where the boundaries are and kind of staying within that.
And that's partially because people are so casually competent at what they do in the games industry. It's like, it's really a privilege to work with those people that I worked with to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we have about 2 minutes left. I'll try and be quick.
I'm Keola. I'm pursuing a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science at Auburn University. I've been trying to get an internship for a while, but I feel like I'm running into a wall over and over again because they're not considering my applications. I'm not getting an email back. I've got a pretty large portfolio with several projects on it, and I was just wondering what you would do to get over that hurdle.
Internships are very rare in the games industry. I haven't really been in a studio that even has a formal policy about it. It's very unusual. You don't really see it. My advice would be to get a headhunter and a recruiter. It may be a dirty word, but those guys, they know how to get attention, and they will look at your skills, and they'll do a little shotgunning, but they can get your foot in the door.
Okay.
Would be my advice.
Yeah, and they can also give you some good advice on what to put in your resume and your portfolio. At Hi-Rez, we do interns. We had about 30 on our team last summer, and we'll probably do pretty similar, I would imagine, next year.
Great. No, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. They didn't when I was there.
Yeah, but I would say you want to make sure on your resume that you have the different technological background that we're looking for. So we do use UE3 and UE4 depending on which projects. All our programming is in it's either C++ for our Unreal games and or C# for our Unity games. So making sure that you at least have those skill sets in your resume so we can say, okay, this person at least knows UE4, so this would make sense to pursue this. And we do look for GPAs for our internships. That is something that we're looking at too.
And recruiters will tell you that. They'll tell you what people we're looking for because they work closely with studios. All right, I think we have time for one more question. This is an example of a non-optimal solution.
We're making it work.
What's the question?
I hope you're not forgetting your name.
Noah, I was wondering, is it common for roles to bleed into other roles in your company?
Extremely common. Happens all the time. Cross-pollination is huge.
That is what I like to hear. Thank you.
I'm sorry if you want
That was
to
good.
differ with that, like my intern thing. All right, I think that's all the time we have for the stream and for everything. I don't know about Scarlett, but I'm planning to hang out. I've got nowhere to be. So thank you for coming.
Yeah.
And I wish all of you luck. I genuinely do.